You're not gonna leave me, right, Levi? You're not gonna be a stray like all those dogs, right? Oh, I probably got dog hair all over me. Speaking of dog hair, today we're reviewing strays. So let's talk about it. Now, before we get started, welcome back to my channel, Leo's Nerd Talk. If you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, video games, and all things nerdy, go ahead and consider subscribing down below, and we can go ahead and further discuss in the comments and in further reviews in the future. Now let's get started on the review. Strays is directed by Josh Greenrum. It tells a story about a small dog named Reggie, played by Will Ferrell, where he gets abandoned by his abusive owner in this rough neighborhood where he finds a new friend called Bug, played by Jamie Foxx, and he tries to teach him the world of being a stray and how to be a tough dog in the streets. The story is pretty interesting overall. Obviously, it's just kind of a small, fun little story here, rated R type of movie, comedy, where you're just kind of going through these dogs' minds, going through the streets, learning how to become a stray after you've been abandoned by your owner. And it's still, at the end of the day, is a little sad sometimes. You know, I didn't expect it to be sad from seeing the trailers. It just looked like it was going to be a lot of silly fun, like nothing was really going to happen. But really, the opening scenes is a little sad, especially if you're a dog lover, pet lover. You know, that kind of abusive owner is not the easiest thing to see. Obviously, it's a good thing that you're seeing it on screen and it's not an actual person abusing a dog, but you still feel that, you know, because it definitely feels real, because you know that's something that does happen in real life where people just abandon their dogs for no reason. So that's definitely something that's kind of sad when you see that. But for the most part, the entire movie is pretty hilarious. I think it's a pretty good movie on doing that. Even with the kind of CGI mouths moving, it doesn't really take you out of it, because you know what you're walking into. You come into this movie for silly fun. You know, Will Ferrell is a great actor, hilarious actor. So him playing as this kind of naive dog into this new world of being a stray is pretty hilarious as it goes on. Now onto the pros for me. Like I said, the movie is pretty funny. I was laughing for the majority of the runtime. There wasn't really too many stale moments for me. So pretty good jokes, a lot of jokes that kind of repeated itself, which I'll go over a little bit more later on in the cons. But for the most part, it was pretty clever with their jokes and how a dog doesn't really know the human world as much, so they think certain things. Like one of the funny jokes is they're trying to figure out why we pick up their poop, and they think it's because we use their poop to make chocolate, and that's why we can't give chocolate to dogs, because then it'll kill them. So there's this running gag this whole time that humans love poop and we're obsessed with poop and we want to pick it up all the time. So it was pretty funny there. And there's another running joke that I thought was pretty hilarious as well, is that one of the dogs, he says that he's not good at howling. So every time all of them are howling, he literally just says howling. So I thought it was pretty hilarious overall. Also, the story, even though it is simple, it's effective. You know, there's not too much to kind of dive into, but I thought it was still interesting. This little kind of revenge story of this little small dog that doesn't really know better. Like I said, he's very naive, but he learns the ways of the streets and how to be a stray thanks to his new found best friend, Bug, played by Jamie Foxx. So it's overall, it's a pretty interesting story. And there's also this kind of subplot of this missing girl that kind of ties into the ending, just of how the dogs kind of turned out. But it's also kind of interesting on that way, because throughout the whole movie, or probably halfway through the movie, there's some police dogs looking for this missing girl, and they can't find it. And one of the dogs in our main group, it helps a lot in that kind of subplot. So that's another interesting subplot, apart from like the little revenge story that Reggie is trying to go through. There's also this little subplot that kind of makes the story overall a little bit more intense, to have a little more depth within it. Apart from the plot being kind of simple, it is satisfying. You know, the ending of it, obviously I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's a very satisfying ending, because the whole time you're just rooting for the dogs, and they kind of get their one up. So it's pretty good to see that. You know, you never want to see any type of dog abuse or dog abandonment or anything like that, or any pet abandonment. So seeing that in the beginning and having that kind of upsetting feeling and kind of sad seeing this dog being abandoned, you do get your little one up at the end, which is pretty nice to see. Now on to the cons for me. Even though I'm okay with this little simple plot line, it's, you would hope for a little bit more depth, but at the end of the day, you know what you're walking into, right? This is a rated R movie about dogs cursing and making a bunch of jokes, and that's pretty much the majority of the movie, which is still pretty hilarious. But overall, again, I still like it. It's not too much of a con, not too much to nitpick here. You can't really nitpick a lot of things with movies like this, where it's meant to just be pure entertainment and have a satisfying ending. And it's not one of those movies where you need to kind of go home and have a long discussion or conversation with your friends about the meanings and things like that. Again, it's just a nice, fun movie. Another con for me is that even though I laughed pretty much the majority of the time, there were some jokes that were being repeated over and over and over again, which it's okay. They're still funny for the most part throughout the entire time, because even though it was the same joke, they used it in a different context, so it still gave me those chuckles, but it wasn't as funny as the first time. And then there was a certain part of the movie where it felt a little stale, but that was kind of more towards the beginning, before the full adventure of these dogs really start. So it just felt a little stale. The pacing at the beginning felt a little slow, but once it gets ramped up, it kind of goes on that bullet train all the way through to the end. It doesn't really stop that momentum. So just a little stale and slow pacing at the beginning, but overall, it still has pretty good pacing, and you can enjoy the movie for the most part. It does feel a little bit longer than the hour 40-minute runtime. So I'm assuming that's kind of where that beginning kind of portion of the slow pacing kind of made it feel like it was 2.5 hours. But yeah, it's only a little bit less than 2 hours, but it still felt a little bit longer, which I was fine with. I had a great time in the theaters with this one. It was a pretty packed theater, which I was super surprised about. I didn't really think too many people were gonna go watch this movie. I didn't really want to at first, but then after seeing more trailers, I was like, yeah, this seems pretty interesting, kind of funny. I like Will Ferrell, I like Jamie Foxx. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think this movie did what it was supposed to do, and it was supposed to entertain us. So if you haven't checked it out, I would definitely go check it out in theaters. It just came out this past Friday. My overall entertainment level was pretty high, so based off of just that alone, I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Again, this is Leo's Nerd Talk. If you like talking about anything movies related, video games, TV shows, make sure to go ahead and subscribe and leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about Strays if you've seen it, and let me know what you want to review on the next video. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.